For more on this, I'm joined now by our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert. Doug, for Lula and his supporters, this is as much a moral battle as it is a political one. Right?
Yes, and Brazil has never seen anything like this in its presidential politics. Literally an election where, depending on where you stand, Lula's predicament is either a politically motivated vendetta to prevent him from ever holding office again, or it is justice served after he was convicted. You'll remember back in January, upheld on conviction in a corruption scandal. He was accused of accepting a bribe in the form of a beachfront villa. What's interesting about this is often when you hear politicians, crying conspiracy plots against them, you have to sort of scratch the surface and you have to say, what's up there? And look, you look at this case here and you say that, Lula has quite a point because, for one, even the judge himself who convicted him was sort of had to acknowledge the fact that there was no absolute concrete proof of any corruption or wrongdoing on his part. His Workers' Party, Lula's Workers' Party, has always contended that there was never any clear evidence of guilt, and just the opposite, overwhelming evidence of his innocence, was blatantly ignored by the judges in this process. So a very interesting sort of phenomenon here. We've seen Brazilian society lurching to the right. We've seen, after the years of Lula, which you'll remember was followed by his hand-picked successor, Dilma Rousseff, who herself then was impeached, not on corruption charges, but for budgetary, tinkering or whatever. They've been out of power, a real rightward lurch in society. So they're really, I believe that there is a lot of credibility to the claims when Lula says that there seems to be a very entrenched part of society, Brazilian society, very divided, polarized right now about this, to keep him from being able to be president again. And that's going to be up. They're going to go through all the appeals they can to see that he can remain on the ballot.
Now, Lula hasn't been in power for nearly a decade, and yet he's still hugely popular. Why is that? Absolutely
hugely. First of all, Barack Obama once called him the most popular politician on earth, you might remember. When he left office, 2011, he had a record-high approval rating, 87%. I mean, that's like Stalinist, right, in the numbers there. Look, he is still enormously popular for basically lifting, and it sounds cliched, but it's true, literally lifting tens of millions, I say perhaps 50 million low-income Brazilians, a lot of them just the real underclass, the poorest Brazilians, but also working-class Brazilians, literally creating almost single-handedly a new middle class in Brazil, doing it by his signature social programs. There was an economic boom back then because of oil, but his signature social program, the Bolsa Familia, which literally enabled single mothers, families who were struggling, to basically be able to get government benefits, to get a chance, and thus creating that middle chance, entrenching them in a social hierarchy and giving them job opportunities they never had before. So literally tens of millions empowered, enfranchised in Brazilian society. Those are people who still remain extremely devoted to Lula, even nearly a decade after he was in power. Nearly a third of them would vote for Lula if he is able to run. So he's right now the presumed front runner, even though he has not been it's not been determined whether or not he will, in fact, be able to keep his name on the ballot.